So, let's talk about your morning routine. You know, that perfectly crafted sequence of habits designed to make you a productivity machine. But what if I told you that routine might actually be a trap?
You know the drill, right? It all starts before the sun is even up. That alarm blares at 5 a.m. and boom, you're off to the races, kicking off this intense marathon of self-optimization.
And then comes the checklist of virtuous activities. You're whipping up a green smoothie. You're journaling your intentions. You're meditating to find your focus. Every single second has a purpose.
Even your supposed downtime has to be productive. You're cramming in a podcast, but not at normal speed. No way, that's just inefficient. You're listening at 1.5 times speed while you prep your meals for the entire week.
And by 8 a.m., before most people have even had their coffee, you've done it. You've won the day. You feel like the master of your universe, a total icon of discipline. But, are you?
And this is where things take a sharp turn, because according to the source material we're looking at, that feeling of control is just an illusion. You're not disciplined, you're imprisoned. And the cruelest part of it all, you are both the prisoner and the warden.
So that brings us to the core idea for today, the optimized prison. We're going to dive into the philosophy behind our burnout and see how this relentless drive to be better can actually become its own kind of cage.
Okay, to really get this, we have to talk about the philosopher Byung-Chul Han. He makes this incredible argument that we're not living in a society of external discipline anymore. Instead, we're in an achievement society, where all the pressure, all the oppression, it comes from inside ourselves.
And at the heart of this new society is what Han calls the auto-exploiting subject. Now that sounds super academic, I know, but it boils down to something simple. We've become our own toughest bosses. Think about it. Nobody is making you wake up at 5 a.m. You're the one cracking the whip.
Let's just look at this comparison, because it makes it so clear. In the past, the bad guy was external, a demanding boss, an oppressive government. You could see it, you could name it, you could even fight back. But today, the oppressor is internal, and it's motivated by positive things, like achieving your potential. Which leads to a really chilling question: how in the world do you revolt against yourself?
So this internal pressure cooker builds and builds until it becomes what the article calls the tyranny of potential. And this is where all that philosophy stops being abstract and starts feeling like that very real, deep in your bones exhaustion.
And the logic behind this is so sneaky and frankly so cruel. It whispers in your ear that your potential is basically infinite. So if you fail, if you're not successful or you're not happy, there's only one person to blame: you. You just didn't optimize hard enough. You didn't hustle enough. You didn't want it badly enough. This creates a whole new kind of stress, achievement pressure. See, old school discipline had an off switch, right? The workday ended. But this pressure, it's limitless. There is always one more book you could read, one more skill you could master, one more level you could unlock. The finish line is constantly moving further away. And what does that lead to? A very specific kind of burnout that Byung-Chul Han calls eye tiredness. This isn't that good kind of tired you feel after a long hike. No, this is that drained, screen zombie, glazed-over feeling you get from endlessly scrolling, tracking your own habits, and basically performing for some invisible audience 24/7. It's the fatigue of a mind that is never, ever allowed to clock out.
So this leads to a really interesting paradox, right? If we're all so exhausted, why does the modern solution, self-care, why does it so often feel like just one more thing on our to-do list? Why does it sometimes make us even more tired?
Well, the answer is right here in what we can call the burnout paradox. Here's how it works. We feel burned out by all the pressure to achieve. So what do? We try to fix it with more achievement. We try to get better at resting. We track our sleep cycles. We schedule strategic recovery. But do you hear the language? We're using the logic of optimization to solve a problem that optimization created. We're trying to achieve our way out of an achievement trap, and it just digs us deeper into the hole.
Okay, so if we're in a prison, is there a key? Is there a way out? Well, this next part is all about how to break free. And it's not about finding a better routine, it's about asking better questions.
The real key here isn't some new life hack. It's about getting to the why. Is this habit you're doing for genuine self-discovery? Or is it what the article calls a technology of performance? To put it another way, are you trying to get to know yourself, or are you just trying to build a better product? And that product
is you. So here are 4 really critical questions to ask yourself about any of your routines. First, does this connect me to something bigger than just achievement? Second, could I stop doing this tomorrow without feeling like a total failure? Third, and this is a big one, am I doing this for an imagined audience? And finally, is there room in this habit for it to be messy, for it to be unproductive?
The alternative, then, isn't about becoming lazy. It's about cultivating a totally different set of skills. Things like negative capability, which is just the ability to exist with uncertainty, to just be, without constantly needing to fix or optimize something. It's about embracing true rest, rest that doesn't produce anything, rest that you don't track on an app. And maybe, just maybe, it's about rediscovering the lost art of boredom, of, as the poet says, wasting time beautifully. And when you put all this together, it points toward a whole new way of being, a life that isn't completely defined by this relentless, exhausting chase for optimization.
You know, the source material argues that the real fuel for this entire exhausting system is positivity. That mantra, you can do anything, it sounds so empowering, but really, it feels more like a command. It eliminates the possibility of saying no. It creates this endless landscape of things you could be doing, which means you're constantly feeling like you're failing.
And that leads to this really profound idea. In a world that demands that you be limitless, maybe the most radical, rebellious thing you can possibly do is to just admit that you're not. To accept that you get tired, that you have limits, and that this isn't some kind of bug that needs to be optimized away, but a fundamental, beautiful feature of being human.
So we're going to leave you with the powerful final question posed by the source material. Just for a second, forget about the perfect routine, forget about winning the day. If optimization wasn't the whole point, what would you actually do with your time? The answer to that question, that's where real freedom might just begin.